Alright, we've branched out. I can go back to being comfortable for a little bit. I wasn't doing top 10s, and I was beginning to scare myself. Exited my comfort zone, tested the waters, went to see how good it felt. And, well, now I want to take a break from being uncomfortable and go back to being comfortable. And what better way to talk about being comfortable than to talk about good old-fashioned dark types. Dark types are one of my favorite types of Pokemon, if that part wasn't obvious. Ever since they were introduced in Generation 2, Tyranitar was popular. And you know what type that mon is. Pokemon like Tyranitar, Bisharp, and Weavile have shaped the competitive scene to some degree since their arrival to the game, and are probably 3 of the most iconic ones in general. No wonder they're all on Alon's team. But are those 3 the strongest? Well, let's see where they stack up. The rules are simple. The Pokemon has to be in Gen 9, and it can't be a super legendary like Yveltal. And also, everything I say is about Smogon singles, not VGC doubles. So no Mega Gyarados, no Yveltal, no Ash Greninja. With that said, Luna's World. If you like chill lo-fi and need some music to relax to, Luna's World is the place for you. I got new tracks coming out very soon, so be on the lookout for them. But anyway, let's hop right into number 10. Okay, yeah, let's not pretend here. As much as I would love to put Weavile higher, and maybe it just deserves to be, Weavile isn't the big 3 of dark types that it used to be. The competition is just crazy, man. It is actually the highest ranking out of itself, Tyranitar, and Bisharp, because Tyranitar just isn't what it used to be, and Bisharp losing knockoff and pursuit is really bad for it. Now, Weavile isn't even bad. No, this is one of the few times where the lowest ranking mon on a list is perfectly overused, which doesn't happen all too often in these lists. Weavile is incredibly potent, carrying 120 attack and 125 speed, which makes it tied for the fastest Pokemon on the list. And with moves like Triple Axle, Low Kick, Knockoff, Ice Shard, and Swords Dance, this fast offensive monster is incredibly hard for people to switch into, and is going to be forcing Terras on anything that doesn't want to get wiped out by its attacks. Weavile has been good ever since it came out, and unless Game Freak takes away Knockoff and Triple Axle again, I doubt it'll ever be bad. Recommended Terra? Well, I like Terra fighting Low Kick to tell Heatran it's not safe. You would think I would be ranking Hisuian Samurott higher, and I probably should, since I am more scared of this mon than I am of probably most of this list when I enter a battle. It's incredibly consistent at using this move called Cecil's Edge, and nothing else, featuring like Sucker Punch, Sacred Sword, and Aqua Cutter. But let's be real, none of that matters. It's the sharpness boosted Cecil's Edge that matters. Being able to put hazards on the field while doing damage is good, and there's no way around it. So why do I have it placed so low in comparison to the other mons? Are the other mons just that good? Actually, yes, but also because Hisuian Samurott isn't perfect. Not only does it have middling stats, and is typically always going to be locked onto Focus Sash or Choice Scarf, while matching up questionably against defensive Great Tusk, but it also doesn't do anything but use Cecil's Edge. This one-dimensionality to its gameplay, as well as its mediocre stats, and the fact that a lot of Pokemon can just run heavy-duty boots, kind of lowers its impact a little bit. It's amazing, but by no means is it perfect. Recommended Terra? Ghost. Just to make sure those hazards stay up. Is a cat. Small, precious baby cat. Look at the cat. It's honestly pretty adorable. It even knows tricks. Even if the trick is throwing a grenade in your face and watching you go boom. It's still a pretty cool trick. Yeah? It's such a perfect, precious cat. Is there more to it? I mean, yeah, I guess. There's access to Protean, 123 speed, 110 attack, spikes, U-turn, knockoff, triple axle, taunt, and trick. You get all that while being able to make use of Focus Sash, Boots, Scarf, and Choice Band. But I think we're looking at the wrong stuff here. None of that utility, breaking power, or ability to pivot in and out of a match is what really matters. What matters is that it's a precious baby cat. Anything else goes against the spirit of the game. You know, win with your favorites. That's why Meowscarada is my favorite. And not because it's really strong. I promise. Recommended Terra? You don't. It's a Proteanmon. The Smogon forms do recommend Fire, Dark, and Grass though. Darkrai is certainly a Mon, and a scary one at that. Even though putting stuff to sleep is banned in Gen 9 singles, that doesn't make Darkrai bad. It just makes it less scary. I imagine if it could use Hypnosis, it would have been higher on the list. But that move is banned, and for good reason. All it takes for Darkrai to get going is a single Nasty Plot, and then the game could very well just be over. Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, and Sludge Bomb are typically all it needs, with Focus Blast if you hate a certain king and his gambits. The only common Pokemon off the top of my head that could shrug off a Darkrai assault are like Blissey and Ting-Lu, who can both 1v1 Darkrai and all, but not everything is going to be on those. So with that said and done, why is it not higher? Because even with that amazing speed, booster speed paradoxes pose an issue to any Scarf set. And so long as stuff like Walking Wake, Iron Valiant, and any competent Scarfer exist, Darkrai isn't gonna just get to endgames instantly. Because there are Pokemon that can punish it for coming in too early, and all of them are very dangerous. It's an excellent Pokemon, but it has a lot of checks. Recommended Terra? Poison. Show those fairies who's boss. Last I checked, Roaring Moon hasn't changed since I last talked about it. Its role is pretty much set at this point. Roaring Moon is an incredibly fast and potent attacker that can kill your team in the blink of an eye if given a turn the Dragon Dance. Stuff like Dondozo and Corviknight can get the jump on it. This much is incredibly true. And there are very few Pokemon that are faster than it without a Dragon Dance. But those Pokemon can kill it before it sets up. Stuff like, well, Meowscarada, Weavile, Deoxys Speed, Dragapult, and Zamazenta are all Pokemon that can catch Roaring Moon and then pile drive it into the ground. But don't let these flaws distract you, because ultimately, a booster energy attack boosted +1 Dragon Dance Terra Flying Roaring Moon is incredibly scary. And against a weakened or ill-prepared team, well, that's it. That's game. And it's not too hard to find that opening. Stuff like Earthquake, Acrobatics, Knockoff, and Outrage are all perfectly valid to run on it. And yeah, Choice Span Roaring Moon is just as viable as it has always been. Able to use Earthquake, Knockoff, Outrage, and either U-Turn or Iron Head to dismantle teams before they have a chance to react? Yeah, sign me up. Recommended Terra? Flying for the booster sets. Darker Steel for the banded ones. Alright, let's take off the gloves and finally talk about a member of the Ruin Quartet. Ting-Lu is just good. Ting-Lu is just excellent even. Its ability to sit there and refuse to die while setting up Stealth Rocks and Spikes, whirlwinding Pokemon out in order to acquire more chip, and making use of stuff like Ruination and Earthquake to deal extra damage, especially since Ting-Lu doesn't have a single bad stat out of special attack and speed. 155 HP, 110 attack, 125 defense, and 80 special defense. But 80 is bad, you might say. And you'd be right, if Vessel of Ruin didn't make it to where it took less damage from special attacks. It's a near perfect tank, and every day I get more and more glad it doesn't have Recover. Otherwise, it would just be the tank. While even with leftovers, it will eventually be whittled down. Ting-Lu does such a good job tanking as much as it needs to ensure that hazards get up and stay up that it doesn't matter. 9 times out of 10, a Ting-Lu will have done its job before fainting. And unlike, let's say, Hisuian Samurott, who sets up hazards once and dies, Ting-Lu can come back and do it again if played well. Recommended Terra, Poison to beat Fairy, or Ghost to beat Fighting and keep hazards up. Well, I guess Bisharp is on here by technicality, or at least the new hip evolution it got as an apology for losing Knockoff and Pursuit. Now, would I rather play Knockoff and Pursuit Bisharp, or would I rather play Kingambit? Well, that is an excellent question. One could argue that both have their merits. Although, myself personally, I want to gain strength from the Fallen. Nothing is more horrendously disgusting than the Kingambit 50-50, where you have to win every single turn or get sucker punched into oblivion. The ability to steal games that you'd have otherwise lost, that is the art of the Kin's Gambit. Kingambit gets great moves like Low Kick, Iron Head, Kotal Cleave, and Swords Dance, and arguably its greatest non-sucker punch tool, Terra Blast. By Terra Blasting your Kingambit into Fairy or Flying in order to survive the incoming attack from Great Tusk, you can utterly destroy it with a now stab super effective attack that will completely reverse your only true losing matchup. It also lets you beat up Iron Valiant. And then, you can go back to what you're meant to be doing, which is using Sucker Punch and feeling good about it. It's the second most used Pokemon in OU, the last I checked, for a reason. I wonder if Kotal Cleave implies the existence of Kotal Dismantle. Urshifu's Single Strike feels like an apology for Pangoro and Scrafty existing. But the difference is it's less of an apology and more of Game Freak making fun of the two for being so slow and without anything to make them stand out. All the while showing off its cool signature ability that breaks through Protect and its cool signature move that always crits. Really makes you feel like a total doofus for using Knockoff when you could just be using Wicked Blow. Close Combat, U-Turn, and Iron Head too, but mostly Wicked Blow. Urshifu Dark Strike, be it Swords Dance, Choice Scarf, or Choice Band, was able to completely and utterly brute force any type of check it could have possibly had back in its heyday of OU. It could Terra Dark, which was its most preferred to further amp the power of its Wicked Blow, or it could Poison to resist the Fairy in fighting that would normally check it, and then completely destroy the Pokemon that was even trying to KO it to begin with. And with its amazing physical defensive stat, it wasn't frail by any means. This meant, unlike a lot of fast attackers, it could live a hit and just keep brute forcing. The only thing that ever truly held this thing back was its 97 speed, making it slightly below average. But don't let that make you think it was slow. No, with the Scarf on, it was easy to forget that its speed was 97 to begin with. It hit fast, it hit hard, and it ravaged everything with its victorious attacks. And yet, it's not even the strongest Dark type. And yet, neither is Chien-Pao. Taking the silver medal for Dark Typery is none other than the Swords of Ruin themselves. Being able to lower your defense by existing was never fair. And then having a 120 attack stat to work with on top of that, and then 135 speed? Yeah, the same speed as Fluttermane, Koraidon, and Miraidon. Chien-Pao, with its Terra Dark Choice Banded Crunches, were capable of two-shotting anything defensive, and one-shotting anything offensive that happened to be slower than it and not resist the crunch. Its capability to end a battle on the spot is so obscene that people were calling for its ban pretty quickly. It only flew under the radar because Fluttermane, Sandrush Houndstone with last respects, and the number 1 spot were all causing enough havoc to get banned first. And of course, Crunch was not all it could do. It has priority in Ice Shard and Sucker Punch, setup in Swords Dance, defense ignoring in Sacred Sword, and Ice Stab for those pesky dragons in Ice Spinner, or, God forbid, Icicle Crash, which could just flinch you and make matters worse. It's Mega Weavile for a reason, and that reason is ever so clear. So after all of that, what's the strongest dark type? What could be stronger than even Chien-Pao? It has to be Tyranitar, right? No. Just something, ironically enough, walled by it. It was one of the few things that could. The snack that smiles back is a demon of unparalleled power, with beads of ruin lowering the special defense of anything in front of it, and it having 135 special attack. Chi-Yu was capable of outright destroying anything and everything that didn't resist dark and fire. Fire Blast, Overheat, Dark Pulse, Psychic, and then of course Terra and whatever Terra blasted once, typically Grass to beat, you know, Azumarill and Tyranitar. The only thing that could even try to wall a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Chi-Yu and be guaranteed to succeed is Blissey, who didn't want to exist in the same format as, at the time, Chien-Pao, Annihilate, and Great Tusk, who all checked it. 100 speed and 135 special attack, and then an ability that made you more frail just to make sure it one-shot you? The game plan was simple. But Lord, was it way too effective. Dracovish blushes at the damage that Chi-Yu gets away with. And please, do not let it be in the sun. It'll only get worse. And yeah, that's it. Sadly no Tyranitar, but it is what it is. New generations, new power creep featuring Wo Chien, who I forgot existed when writing this, but would not scrape the list regardless. What do you guys think? Outside of like Yveltal and Arceus Dark, is Chi-Yu the strongest dark type of the modern era? Or do you think that something on this list is stronger? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And with that said, I'm gonna go for a late night stroll. It's getting to the point in the year where it's chilly enough for a nice long walk.